Friday night, Belgium, 1985. A mother and her 9-year-old son walk out of a supermarket. The parking lot is lit, normal, safe. Three men step out of the shadows. The mother is dead before she hits the ground. The father, already inside, hears the shots. He runs out. He dies in the doorway. The boy, 9 years old, watches both his parents die in front of him. Then a bullet tears through his neck. He lies there, in the blood, alone. His name is David Van Dyke Steele. He survived. He's the only one who can tell you what that night felt like. And when he grew up and asked the Belgian government what happened, who did it, and why, they had no answer. 40 years later, they still don't. Between 1982 and 1985, three men terrorized Belgium. Nobody knew their names. Nobody knew their faces. Witnesses gave them nicknames. First, the giant, the ringleader, towering over 6 feet 4, military gear, cold eyes. He never panicked. He never rushed. Second, the killer, smaller, faster, the one who pulled the trigger. He killed 23 of the 28 victims himself. He didn't shoot to stop people, he shot to end them. And lastly, the old man, Middle East, quiet. He waited in the car, watched the clock, and when the shooting stopped, he drove them into the dark. Three men, 28 dead, 40 injured, including children. And here is what made Belgium freeze. They stole almost nothing. In one ride, the main items taken were tea and coffee. In the final massacre, the deadliest, the total financial gain was less than a few $1,000. Professional criminals don't do that. They don't massacre families for loose change. They don't shoot people who are already on the ground. They don't kill the 9 years old parents and then shoot the child. This wasn't robbery. This was something else entirely. And Belgium was about to find out exactly how deep the rabbit hole went. It started small. March 1982. A hunting rifle stolen from a shop in Dinant. No violence. Then, champagne from a restaurant. Tea, coffee, almost petty. But police who reviewed those early incidents later noticed something that sent a chill through the investigation. These men knew exactly where the security cameras were. They knew exactly when patrols would arrive. They moved like people who had studied these locations. Not for days, but for weeks. By 1983, the guns came out. Semi-automatic rifles, pump-action shotguns, military specification weapons. Customers shot dead at point-blank range. Zero resistance, zero threat. Shot anyway. Then, September 27th, 1985, Two supermarkets, same night, same hour, different locations. 13 people dead across two sides in under 60 minutes. Belgium had never seen anything like it. And then, November 9th, 1985, Alst Delhaize supermarket. 8 people killed: the giant, the killer, and the old man walk in, and for 11 minutes they don't stop shooting. A grandfather trying to shield his grandchildren, a young woman near the checkout. 8 people dead, 7 more wounded. David Van de Steen, 9 years old, bleeding on the pavement. And then they were gone. They got into their car and vanished, just like every other time. What followed was not an investigation, it was theater. Evidence from a getaway vehicle gone, simply gone, no explanation. Weapons recovered from a canal were challenged by investigators, who said the canal had already been searched the year before and found empty. Someone had planted them there after the fact, with inside knowledge of the case. In January 2019, a retired officer named only as Philip V, a member of the Elite Delta Investigation Unit, was arrested on suspicion of planting that evidence himself. The very detective assigned to find the killers allegedly was in the case from the inside. Then the witnesses. A key witness who claimed to know the gang's identity found dead, ruled a suicide. Paul Latinus, the leader of a neo-Nazi paramilitary group deeply connected to this case, found dead in April 1984, also ruled a suicide. Two suicides, zero convictions, zero arrests. And then, the night of the final massacre, one detail that permanently broke public trust in Belgian law enforcement. The gang struck that supermarket in Alost despite police patrol vehicles checking the premises every 20 minutes. And on that night, gendarmerie vehicles were parked 100 meters away from the entrance. 100 meters. When asked why they didn't respond, why they didn't pursue, the officers told investigators their vehicles wouldn't start. Their vehicles wouldn't start. Here is where the story changes. Because this was never just about three killers. In the early 1980s, a neo Nazi paramilitary group was operating inside Belgium, openly, quietly, with protection. They called themselves Westland New Post. Their founder, Paul Latinus, a Belgian state security informant, also worked for American intelligence. A man who told investigators directly that his entire organization was sanctioned by the Belgian government. His second in command, Mitchell Libert, a military volunteer at the NATO Transmission Center in Evier, who admitted on camera in a BBC documentary that Latinus ordered him to send members to covertly scout and report on the security arrangements of Belgian supermarkets. The same supermarkets the Brabant Killers later walked into with shotguns. Let that sit. A NATO connected neo Nazi group, with serving gendarmerie officers among its members, was sent to case the exact locations that were later massacred, and not one of those officers was ever charged. Westland New Post was connected to STRA-8, Belgium's branch of Operation Gladio, NATO's secret Cold War network. Hidden cells embedded across Western Europe, armed, funded, protected, trained to conduct sabotage and psychological warfare against their own populations if needed. In Italy, this network was confirmed to have carried out bombings, blamed them on left wing groups, deliberately terrorized civilians, all to push public opinion towards authoritarian government. They had a name for it, the strategy of tension. Make people afraid, destroy their trust in the state, then offer them control as cure. Belgium's own parliamentary inquiry confirmed that SDR8 collaborated with Westland New Post, that the weapons used in the Brabant attacks matched a military specification of firearms consistent with the NATO Stapleton catches, that the entire infrastructure for state sponsored terror existed and was active. They stopped just short of saying the state directed the killings. Just short. And then there was Benoit de Bonvoisin, a Belgian nobleman known in intelligence circles as the Black Baron, named by multiple sources as a possible financier of the gang, with documented ties to far right networks and Belgian security services. Never charged. Nobody was. For 30 years, nothing. Then, in 2015, a man died in Ulst, the same city as the final massacre. His name was Christian Bonkovsky. He was 61 years old. He had spent his final years drinking himself to death. And on his deathbed, he told his brother the truth. He was the giant. Bonkovsky had been a member of the Diane Group, Belgium's elite police commando unit. He was dismissed in 1981 after his weapon accidentally discharged. 1 year later, the Brabant attacks began. His brother went to Belgian media in 2017. Former colleagues confirmed his unusual height. A former girlfriend said he became furious when she suggested she resembled the police sketch. Belgian prosecutors ran DNA tests. They announced the DNA didn't match, but investigators immediately challenged the findings, pointing out that DNA samples compared may have belonged to the killer or the old man, not the giant, meaning Bonkovsky could still be exactly who he said he was. He died in 2015. He never stood trial. He never sat across from David Van de Steen. He never took the rest of the truth with him. and the killer and the old man still unidentified, still unknown, still out there.